Hi, it's Bumble doing another review for the Alien series movies. Because last one I did was Romulus, next it was gonna be Aliens, because I'm trying to go in the chronological order as best I can. Well, at least as best as I can for now, because of the time I'm recording these. The Alien Earth series isn't out yet, so that's gonna put everything out of order. Because I think that takes place before the original first movie. So I decided to put my Aliens and Alien 3 reviews together because I like Aliens. It's a cool movie. I didn't mind rewatching it, but I didn't want to, and I took like a bunch of notes. I actually just finished rewatching it specifically to do this review. And I didn't really want to rewatch Alien 3. I don't like that one personally, which feels kind of ironic now because like that movie was the reason I originally was doing watching the series in the first place. When I was like watching the first three movies a couple years ago, like, okay, I just want to watch Alien 3, but let me watch the other ones first. And then Alien 3 has been like my least, I can easily say Alien 3 is my least favorite out of all the movies so far, with everything. And then Alien Romulus is my favorite, and then the original Alien, and then probably Aliens, if I'm honest. It's pretty good. And then I don't know where I want to put for Prometheus or Covenant. I don't know if I even want to count Prometheus because it doesn't really feel like it's cool as a movie, but like it doesn't really feel like an Alien movie. So I don't know, but that's okay. That's kind of where things stand. So I'm going to talk about Aliens first. That's going to be the longer part. I'm mostly including 3 here just because I didn't want to give it its own video. I didn't have enough notes on it or anything. So I'm like kind of just tackling it onto the end here, tacking it on. Okay, so the thing is with watching Aliens, which slightly ruined it for me this time, is when I originally watched it, we have like a pretty big TV downstairs where I was watching it with my mom, and then to rewatch it, I didn't want to go downstairs, so I went on a littler TV, and normally that TV is like fine. Like I watched the original Alien in there and Romulus, and everything was like easy to see and stuff, but for some reason with Aliens, and I wasn't watching like a special widescreen version of it or anything, it was just whatever version of it is on Hulu, and I was watching the others on Hulu as well, but things were getting cut off the screen because the movie was too large. I mean, it's not like a super, no, it is actually a pretty small TV. It's shaped like a rectangle, not like a square or anything, like, you know how older TVs are square. So like maybe that was also why. So that was a bit of a bummer. Like thankfully I had seen the movie, so you know I knew what was happening. It's not like a ton of things were being cut off, but it was a bit hard because this movie has like a lot more close-ups of characters' faces than I remembered, especially of Ripley, and I felt it was kind of a bummer that like people's faces were literally getting cut off, and so was some of the like, actually no, I think the dialogue was able to stay on the screen. People's faces were getting cut off and stuff whenever there was a close-up. Whenever it was like far away shots, it was fine. Whenever it was a close-up of anyone, and it's a bummer because I feel like this is one of my favorites in terms of like story and characters and stuff. So to have it where there's a lot of like slow crucial scenes of like character development or people talking about stuff or whatever, and then not being able to see like half of someone's face was just a little bit disappointing. So I wanted to mention that doesn't pop up in or affect my review in any way. I just wanted to note that as like if you're gonna watch this movie too, I guess you have to watch it on a big enough TV. I didn't know. Like, I mean, I realized it right away because the opening credits themselves, the words were literally getting cut off, but I was like, I don't really have a choice here. I didn't want to go downstairs, so. Plus, I think my dad's already down there anyway. Okay, so this is going to be like half me, like, recapping things. Oh, wait, no. I always describe what these movies are about, huh? So, basically, because even though Romulus story-wise comes first, obviously this one has to pick up with like Ripley's story. So it's that she's still in that like escape pod in the cryosleep from the first movie, and there's some people that are there that rescue her, and then she gets taken to a space station probably owned by the company. I don't know. They have like a representative guy that's there, and he talks her into going back to the same planet from the first movie, which I could not remember the name of it for the life of me, even though one of the subreddits for the Alien movies on Reddit, it's just the name of that planet. Pretty sure it was called Level 426. That's probably the reason I couldn't remember it, because that like doesn't sound like a name or anything to me. But she ends up going there to help them. It's supposed to be like a rescue mission to rescue like some colonists and stuff, and she has to accompany these Marines to go there and kind of be their advisor, because she's like the only person that's fought the aliens and stuff, as like a just in case there's aliens there. And as you'd expect, of course, things go wrong, and there's company shenanigans involved in why things are happening. And yeah, that's pretty much like the gist of it. Like this one, probably because it takes place in the 80s, I don't know, because like the original Alien is like horror, and I mean this one does have some like spooky elements and stuff for sure, of like the you got the usual xenomorph stuff of them like stalking people and killing them and stuff, but it's not like people are specifically picked on like one by one, or the characters are always having to be cautious. Like they have plenty of time to chill actually, and like the scares are kind of spaced more like further away from each other and stuff, so no one has to be like tense the entire movie. I mean, they are in a bad situation and they're aware of it, of course, you know, and they all want to survive. But yeah, but this one is definitely more of an action movie. When I originally watched it, it was kind of weird, because I'm like, oh, it's made in the 80s, you know, so I thought like, okay, it's supposed to be like kind of hopping on the trend of like big 80s action movies, and I thought like, oh, that's not gonna work, because like the original one was horror. But no, like it works pretty well. And it's kind of funny because like every other Alien movie after this, like there's usually someone with a gun anyway, and kind of action kind of stays as like a thing in the series after this movie. So that's kind of cool actually, and I don't mind it. I'm just used to it, to the point where like when I went back to the original Alien, and then having people where they're like having to hide and stuff, where it's just like, oh, okay, you know, I forgot that one. It's kind of like the odd one out in that a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna start with my notes. When there's like a team, as I mentioned, that ends up finding Ripley's pod and rescuing her, I was wondering what they were trying to salvage, because the company representative guy for this movie, his name's Burke, he mentions like, oh, if our salvage team hadn't found you, you would have been floating around forever. So it's kind of crazy that, like, you know, if they hadn't made this, I mean, we don't know if she would have gotten rescued or anything. It always feels like there's like what ifs for a lot of the Alien protagonists, where you don't really know like if they get rescued or not or whatever. And then some of them it's even worse, where they like die off screen. But I was wondering what they were trying to salvage. Like I originally thought like, oh, do they think the alien's in the pod with her or something? Were they like trying to find it? But I don't know. But at least she ends up okay. And then we get a couple shots of Earth. And when I was younger, or not younger, I didn't watch this when I was like little or anything, but I should just say the first time that I watched this movie, I thought the scenes where Ripley is getting the chill in the space station took place on Earth, even though when we see people inside of the space station, we can see Earth from the window. But I thought because they were showing shots of Earth originally, that these things were happening on Earth, and then they were just showing the space station to show the space station. I'm just like, seriously, Bumble, like to myself on that. But the shots are cool. It does kind of suck. Like, this is probably the movie we could have been closest to maybe seeing things happen on Earth. I mean, in the fourth movie, we do finally get to see Earth, and that's kind of nice that at least some version of Ripley gets to go to Earth, and hopefully it's okay. You know, I mean, I do like that none of the movies take place on Earth, though. I think that's cool, because it's always the threat of, like, you gotta make sure that the xenomorphs, like, don't get to Earth. Like, that's something that kind of worries me sometimes when they try to bring back franchises of, like, it's the whatever but it's happening in like modern day Earth in like a normal neighborhood or whatever, and it just, I don't know, that always feels weird to me. Like it stands out too much. I mean, I think, wasn't that happening with like Predator as well, or probably the Predator versus Alien movies? I don't know. I know I'm saying that, and now we're getting a movie where it's supposed to take place on Earth, or like a series or something where it's supposed to take place on Earth, and I'm like, aw. And you'll hear me talk about it in a bit. It'll have to just be after all these reviews, because the series isn't out yet, and then I'll probably have to do Predator after that. Okay. What else? I was wondering if it's something I'm still confused about. I'll probably have to Google it though. Another one of my like hypothetical questions or whatever. Is in universe there actually supposed to have been 57 years between like the original Alien movie and this one? Because there's a part where Burke tells her like, yeah, you've been asleep for 57 years or whatever, and she's like, whoa, no way. And I was taking that seriously, but then literally in that same scene, a chest burster comes out of her, and then she wakes up and it's revealed to be a nightmare, and I'm like, how much of that was real and how much of it was a nightmare? Like when I originally watched, I just assumed the 57 years thing was like not true, because I mean, I forgot that the cryopod, you know, probably, I'm assuming you don't age in there or whatever, but I just thought, oh yeah, that was part of the nightmare, because the 57 years passing, that's crazy. But I mean, I guess it makes sense, because they mentioned they like terraform like the planet that Ripley was originally on, and now it has like buildings and stuff. I don't know, it just, 57 years feels like a lot. Damn. And if it is true, I feel bad for Ripley, because like what was I gonna say? Like I know her daughter's like the character of one of the video games, and mentions like she hasn't seen her mom since she was a little kid. It's in like the Steam description page or something, and I was thinking about that as I was watching this, and I was like, no wonder Ripley like is like super maternal to Newt, like pretty much as soon as she meets her. Well, that's got to be crazy, because then like after this movie, Ripley like dies in the next one, so I guess she does never actually get to see her daughter or anything. Or isn't it like her daughter's already dead by this point? I don't know. And then the company, or I don't know, Ripley's at this board meeting. I mean, Burke's there, I'm assuming, because he mentions he's like someone that works for Weyland-Yutani, that like the people at the board meeting are just, I don't know, the people in charge of the space station. Were they like other people in the company? Like they refused to believe Ripley about anything that happened, even though that company's like the same one that sent her to the planet in the first place. And they even mentioned that it was unsurveyed at the time, but like that no one was keeping tabs on it. And I'm like, no way. And then what's interesting is she reminds them of that like, oh yeah, we were following a spaceship, they found this beacon, and I was thinking like, whose spaceship is supposed to supposedly have been there with the eggs? Because I don't remember them finding anyone. They were only on the planet in the original movie for like a little bit, you know, and then they see all the eggs and stuff, and then they leave. And then they mention about the boardroom people, about like, oh yeah, in like 300 worlds there's never been xenomorphs on them or anything. That's interesting to mention, since like I think what I've heard with the Alien Earth series is that they go out and they like capture different aliens on other worlds and stuff, like things besides xenomorphs. So I mean, that conversation like between Ripley and the boardroom people was like the only time where I was kind of just thinking about like other series and stuff in this, I mean other movies in this series and stuff and other things, and being like but then the rest of the movie, it's like, nah, I'm just chilling, you know. It's kind of just like its own thing. And then what else? And then it just sucks watching Ripley in those parts of like, she doesn't even want to go and like see the aliens or anything. She just wants her old job back and seems to like clearly have trauma from like her alien encounters. And she seems to sort of get over it by like the end of the movie, because like by 3 she's fine. She's ready to like kick ass, and I mean probably not completely fine, but you know, doesn't seem as frightened. And then I just always think about with this movie of like, man, if she never decided to go like with the Marines, if she just decided to stay put, and even if she didn't get her old job back, you know, she would have been fine. Like she wouldn't have ended up on the prison planet and like died there or anything. Because I mean, yeah, the stuff with the colonists, but like they were all dead, and Newt ends up dying anyway trying to get back home. So like she actually didn't save anyone. So it's kind of sad in that sense of like, oh, technically no one survives this movie by the 3rd one. Anyway, I'll talk about the characters a bit. The Marines, yeah, I actually do kind of like the Marines, because they're basically like her like whole crew for this movie pretty much. Vasquez started out like super cocky, which was kind of annoying, but then kind of became more likable as the movie went on. And I liked her banter with this like, there's this blonde Marine, I don't remember what his name is, and then he ends up dying later on, and she gets like kind of sad about that and stuff. And let's see, and then there's a guy, why am I not remembering names? I literally just watched it. There's this one guy who's like the most cocky about everyone and like kind of a goober about wanting to fight the aliens, and then he is like super wimpy and annoying like as soon as he actually meets an alien and people like start dying and stuff. But I mean, he does help out sometimes too. Like there's a part where Newt's trying to like fight a face hugger or something, or like to get away from it, and that guy ends up like helping her out and stuff and shooting it. And then Hicks is cool. I felt like him and Ripley had a good dynamic. I was bummed that like he survives this movie, but like not really. He gets like covered in a bunch of acid and then like dies later. And then Bishop's cool too. I like how he's introduced through the knife scene of like making sure the other guy doesn't get hurt. And then at the end of the movie, he helps save Newt, even when he's like literally cut in half and everything. He's always trying to like kind of be the protector role, really. But at the same time, even though he's introduced in that way of like he seems helpful and stuff, like it also still seems fair that like Ripley doesn't trust him given her experiences with Ash. And I feel I was gonna say I feel like they set it up like he's gonna betray them, and then he does, like you're almost waiting for it, but I'd say no. I mean, he does have that line about like the face huggers being magnificent, and it does kind of almost seem that way at the end, where like he's flying this ship, and I think Ripley and Newt were stuck somewhere, and she literally yells out into the room something like, "Damn it, Bishop!" And then he shows up and saves them, and he's like, "Oh, I couldn't park close enough." Like everything's like justified. He wasn't ever trying to like kill them or anything. So I guess it's not really like a... I mean, I didn't feel like I was waiting for him to betray them or anything. He seemed pretty chill. What else? And then they mention about how like, yeah, there's always a synthetic on board and stuff, and about I think the behavior innovators thing was interesting, because Bishop ends up like when he's learning about like Ripley's experiences with Ash or something, he's like, "Oh really, that happened? What model was it?" And they mention about like that specific model always being twitchy and stuff, and about how like the newer androids have the behavior innovators. I'm assuming that means like, besides him literally mentioning like they can't hurt humans, I'm like, does that affect anything else with their behavior? Does that just make them kind of like docile? Because now that I was thinking of it, like starting with this movie, I don't think there's like any more synthetics that like betray people, because there's not any new like synthetics that are introduced in the 3rd movie. It's just Bishop, or like half of Bishop anyway, and then he like chooses to die, and then Call in the 4th movie is like completely fine, and then there hasn't been anything like movie wise after that, so I don't know. And then what else? I thought the actress that plays Newt did a good job. I don't know. I don't know what she looks like as an adult, so I genuinely have no clue if I've seen her in like anything else, and I've just not known. I haven't like, maybe I'll look up her IMDb page, see if she was in like anything else, because I feel like it's such an iconic role. Like, this is the character that you remember from Aliens. Sometimes I feel like it's like a hit or miss with kid characters to me. I never know if they're going to be like annoying or endearing, but she's great. Like, she's a sweet kid, but then she kind of is aware of the situation and everything. Like, she had to survive. Like, the fact that she's introduced where they're saying like she had to survive by herself and sneaking around in the vents to like stay away from the xenomorphs, and she survived for like who knows how long, is like already pretty impressive, considering how like even grown adults die like pretty easy to xenomorphs. And then there's like parts where she has to like guide Ripley through like passages or something, or is trying to give her like advice about things and stuff. So it's not like she's anyone that's like, you know, useless that Ripley has to like drag along or anything. Like, she pulls her weight. And I thought her bond with Ripley is like always the thing that I remember the most out of this movie. And like when she calls her mom at the end, it feels really earned. And it's also nice for Ripley too, because like I feel like we don't really know anything about her in the first movie, which I feel like makes sense because she isn't really like the main character till like halfway through. But it's nice that like we get to see a softer side to her with like how she interacts with Newt, and like see how far she'll really go to like fight for someone she cares about. There's just something about Newt that like kind of reminds me of the original Jurassic Park. Maybe the kids in those movies, I don't know. I don't remember what my thoughts on those Jurassic Park kids are, though. That's like one of those series I also have to rewatch, especially because it's getting a new movie soon. And I have, just real quick, I have Lego games for Jurassic Park on my Switch. I'm debating if I'm going to be playing those in the channel. That's a maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I think this movie, it balances horror and action pretty well. Like, the horror moments are like every once in a while, but still feel kind of tense. The action's cool, though sometimes it is hard to see because there'll be parts where characters are shooting guns and it's like it's so bright I can't really tell what they're shooting at or anything. I just feel like there's like a lot of heart in this movie too, and it's kind of nice. Like the characters, because they're not constantly stalked by the aliens, they like there's a lot of times where it's just like Newt and Ripley chatting, or like other members of the Marines or something, and I think that's cool. Whenever they have time for stuff like that, to really feel like we know the characters a bit, because I don't feel that way about like some of the other alien movies where it's like if you don't give time for me to care about these characters or like a reason why, then I don't really care if they like get killed off by the aliens. That was like my problem with Covenant, honestly, as an example. The armored car that they drive around in the start is also pretty cool, but it kind of okay, I am going to be making fun of some of the things in this movie. I get that it's like old and it's from the 80s and stuff, though I'm glad they don't use CGI. I was trying to remember, I was like, was it, oh no, never mind, I still can't remember if it's 3 or 4 that has like the bad xenomorph CGI. I think it might be 3. Anyway, when you see the outside, the armored car, it always kind of looks like a little toy car. But, you know, I bet it is. I bet it probably is. And then, like, an hour in, they finally get to fight some aliens. And it's crazy because, like, most of the Marines get taken down, like, instantly. You don't even get to see them, like, attacked or anything. You just see the camera monitor on their little screen, like, turns to static or whatever. And then like so much for Ripley being protected by the Marines, right? Like she ends up left in charge and she's the one who has to like try to get everyone out of there. And the music, well, I mean, the music definitely feels different from Romulus and the original Alien, that's for sure, where it was kind of more like kind of mysterious and a little spooky almost, or sometimes having no sound. This movie is very much music-wise like loud and in your face, but I think that's fine. It works. The action scenes have like music that matches and stuff, and it gets you hyped. I'll talk more about that a little bit later. And then Wait, no, I had his name spelled wrong in part of my notes. If I have, Burke. Yeah, his name's Burke, not Brooke. Burke is like constantly trying to sabotage the characters the whole movie, because it's like, you don't trust anyone that works at Weyland-Yutani. And he's trying to bring an alien back to the company. He literally mentions for like the bioweapons division, because they just keep trying to do that the first 3 movies, and then I'm glad he gets killed by a xenomorph later, but I am disappointed that the group actually didn't get to just like shoot him or something. And the thing is, they were going to before they got interrupted and the power goes off for like the rest of the movie and stuff. Hold on, wait, I'm skipping through my notes. And then the scene where Ripley and Newt are stuck with the facehuggers in the med lab is also pretty cool, especially because it starts out like normal. Like, I think they were like chatting and they end up under the bed and they're just kind of trying to sleep there, and it's like, it's nice. And then Ripley hears something and she sees that one of the face hugger glasses is empty and is like, oh shit. And then it's suddenly there under the bed with them. It's kind of a bit of a jump scare, and Newt screams like so loud. But it's never like in an annoying way when she screams, and it's justified. Like, besides the fact that she's a kid and like the xenomorphs are in your face, but like I'd freak out too if an alien was trying to kill me. It was like inches away from my face. And plus she probably saw the colonists die anyway, so she knows what they can do. And then you see them trying to get attention on the camera and they have to set the sprinklers off and stuff. But I'll be honest, like the part when the facehugger's trying to put its like tail thing down Ripley's throat was a little goofy just because of the TV. Okay, this was the thing I wanted to mention with the TV. You know how I said it cuts things off? Well, the lower body, you know how the facehugger's like spider like or whatever gets kind of cut off by the TV in the close-up when it's right in Ripley's face, so it just looks like someone with really long fingers or like a puppet or something kind of trying to attack her face because of the TV thing. It looked so goofy. And then I like that once the power's off, there's like this red light that's everywhere. Like, this movie, it never feels dark or anything, but I mean, they have power for a lot of it, so I feel like that makes sense. And with it being like an action movie mostly, I actually didn't mind that the environment and the lighting didn't really feel like spooky and suspenseful a lot, except when they were like in the alien nest. Then it kind of had the right vibe. But I like that when the power turns off, the lighting is just red for most of the movie, but it's like not as intense as like the super bright like red lights in Romulus, where it almost feels like a bit too much. Here the lighting feels like a little bit more realistic. I don't know. And then the part when Gorman and Vasquez are being cornered in the vents by the aliens was also kind of sad, because like he goes back to try to save her, and they kind of were always kind of getting off on the wrong foot and stuff, and she even admits it and then pulls up the grenade. You know what, I didn't like him either because he was a coward, but like good for him for trying to like at least save someone, you know. It's too bad they weren't with like Ripley, Newt, and Hicks in like the other part of the vents though, because they end up being fine. Which, damn it, FNAF kind of ruined vents for me. Anytime in like anything I see someone crawling around in vents, that's like the first thing I think of. I'm just like, damn. For some reason, I never forget the scene of like Newt falling down that like water wheel thing where she's like screaming and being dragged away. It's not because it's not even like scary or anything either. There's just something about it that just like kind of stuck in my brain. And then she looks so like small and sad when she's wandering around in the water trying to shout for Ripley, and then she gets dragged off. And I like that after the xenomorph takes Newt, Hicks like goes along with Ripley to try and save her. Like, he seemed cool. I wanted him to accompany her like the whole time to go try to rescue Newt. That would have been kind of fun. But then he gets blasted by acid trying to kill the alien in the elevator, and then he's kind of just dumped onto the ship. for the rest of the movie and stuff. Like he doesn't really get to do anything else after that because he's like horribly injured, and then he ends up dying in the pod thing at the start of the third movie anyway, and it's just like, oh, he doesn't get another cool moment again. It would have been cool if he got to go with Ripley, like having someone that she could like rely on and stuff. What else? And then there's a part when Bishop is driving the little like ship and stuff to go to the building where Newt's at, and the music during that, it just felt like so hype, honestly, and it reminded me of like the Tim Burton Batman movies. Kind of nice. I don't know, that's another series I could probably rewatch again. And then everything onwards from like Ripley gearing up with all the ammo to like go rescue Newt to like the end of the movie is just like a whole it's like the last like 15 minutes of movie or something, but it's honestly like my favorite part, and I can never skip it because it just feels so cool, honestly. Oh, hold on a moment, one sec. Okay, I can continue for a bit now. Anyway, that just whole section of the movie is so cool. It just, especially the part I mentioned specifically of Ripley, like she gears up with all the ammo. She's got a really big gun. She's ready to go. It just feels so badass, honestly. It almost makes me wish that like there wasn't a third Alien movie, like specifically Alien 3. I did like Covenant, but I mean not Covenant. Resurrection. Why do I always get like the subtitle names mixed up? I did like Resurrection, but I mean that one depends on 3 because it's like Ripley's dead at that point and they have to get her DNA from somewhere to clone her, but I don't know. I feel like it would have been cool if Ripley's story just ended with the second movie because it goes off on like such a strong note. If you ignore the stuff with 3 of like she goes to rescue Newt, it's all good, she saved Hicks and Bishop even though they're both like damaged and stuff, but it's fine, they're gonna go into the cryosleep thing and they're all gonna go home, it's gonna be fine. Could have ended there, could have given her a nice ending, but no, I don't even like 3 anyways. It's just like, bro, that's how she originally has to go. Anyway, when she burns down the nest, it's pretty cool. And it's a good thing she like went back for Newt anyway, because she was like alive, like Ripley was right about that, and then stuck in like, what even is all that like sticky stuff anyway? And then the shots, there's like these really slow shots revealing the Xenomorph Queen, and that was also cool because like I think that's the first time she's introduced, if I remember right. And it's like you don't really get what you're looking at until like the head moves and you see the other xenomorphs, and you kind of see like, oh, Ripley's like kind of walked into the belly of the beast, huh? And then it's kind of interesting where she's trying to be like super cautious and is like kind of looking around, figuring out like what's her escape plan and stuff. And then she like I like when she tries to torch the eggs, and the queen like freaks out and starts screaming at her, like doesn't even try to kill her or anything, but just starts screaming. And then Ripley like slowly backs away and then just torches the place down. And I feel like that's probably the reason the queen like went on board the ship and like killed everyone and stuff, or like was trying to, you know, as like revenge for that or whatever. I'm assuming, like, when did she like implant them with the face huggers or anything though? I was wondering about that because like with 3 they mentioned that like something was with them the whole time or whatever, and then they end up in the cryo sleep and they seem like fine, and then the third movie it's like one of them was like drowned in there or something, and like something was obviously in the ship, and it's like there's the face hugger and whatever. So I don't know, just kind of thinking about that with the ending of this one. I was like, when does that happen? And I remember Bishop getting split in half. I did not remember him getting impaled. Like he gets impaled and split literally right after Ripley tells him like, oh yeah, you did a good job, you're okay, and like finally approves of him, and then immediately he gets impaled, and it's like, bro, he was cool. And I was wondering, like, he's a synthetic. Why did the xenomorph attack? Not only, like, the queen attacked him, but, like, that was the first person she attacks as soon as everyone gets off the ship. Like, I don't think the little ship, like, shoot at her or anything. Like, individually, I don't think he was probably a threat. But yeah, it sucks that, like, the fight is so cool, and then knowing everyone was screwed, like, the minute they left the planet, because, you know, it was kind of sucky. And then the shot revealing Ripley in the, like, the forklift suit thing, I don't remember what that was called, and then the iconic bitch line is just... it's so peak. Best part of the movie to me. And then the fight's cool too, because, like, how often do we see someone go in, like, hand-to-hand combat with an alien, right? And it's the queen too. Like, that's pretty cool. I mean, I know not literally her hands, you know, because Ripley would probably just get eaten, but the forklift's, like, the closest we'll get. I feel like that was honestly cooler than having, like, someone trying to shoot her with a gun or something. And the fight just also feels earned too, because, like, you know, the last time Ripley had to, like, fight something that stowed away in the ship, she was, like, terrified and, like, kind of just barely survived it, you know, blasting it out of the airlock and stuff. But then this time she kicked ass. It's cool. You know, it's also good that the androids have white blood, because I noticed, like, when Bishop gets, like, impaled and then split, it's, like, really messy. And then they show shots of him on the ground sometimes, and he's just covered in the white blood. I guess because it's not red and my brain doesn't see it as, like, oh, whoa, it's, like, blood. You know, I didn't, like, view it as, like, gory or anything. But, like, now I was thinking about that. I was watching and I was like, if it was just colored a bit differently, then yeah, it would look like, whoa, you know, especially because it, like, it literally, the white blood stuff literally spews out of his mouth as he's being impaled and stuff. That's just so interesting, right? Like, it basically is like a liquid that looks like blood, but because it's not the same color we have, it's like, I don't even think of it as, like, gory or anything, but it is. I don't know, just something interesting. And then the ending's sad too, of, like, you know, knowing, yeah, I feel like 3 just ruins a lot of, like, Aliens for me, especially because I felt like a lot of the characters were likable. Like, I did want everyone to survive, of whoever's left over at the end. And then Ripley helps Newt get into her pod, and it's, like, the last time they get to talk to her. And I liked the line when Newt asked her, like, oh, do I finally get to dream? And Ripley's like, yeah, we both do. As, like, kind of like a, okay, we're kind of, like, safe now at this point. And then the music during the credits also felt sad. I feel like it was reminding me of something. Maybe I was singing the music in the AI Artificial Intelligence. I don't remember. I feel like that movie, like, something about it also kind of reminds me of this one. I don't know. But yeah, I've always liked this movie. I think I enjoyed it more this time. Not from, like, the usual thing I've been doing where I've been, like, thinking about the lore as I've been rewatching all of these for, like, a third or fourth time or something. But it's just fun. This one's just fun to watch. Like, I skipped through some of the middle bits. I mean, I wasn't planning on rewatching the entire movie. I didn't do that with Alien or Romulus either, because I was just rewatching them again for, like, the review. I'd just seen them, like, 2 weeks ago or something when I was binging all of these. But the part when Ripley's trying to save Newt and stuff, it's so good. I can't skip it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Aliens. And then I wrote a couple of things. I was literally writing on my phone notes about Alien 3 of, like, vaguely some of the things I remembered as I was watching through Aliens. So I wrote, like, 4 little paragraphs. There might be more if I just think about some stuff. So here it is. Oh wait, no, I need to describe what happens that one too. I don't know, I like describing the plot in case there's, like, people who haven't seen it, even though I'm, like, spoiling everything with these movies. It's basically that the pod that, like, Ripley's in, it crashes on on this, like, work planet that's also a male only prison, and it's revealed that a facehugger was also in there, and that Ripley's the only one who survived the crash and stuff, even though she's, like, injured and stuff. Like, I think it was that Bishop was, yeah, Bishop's dead, but we do get to see him a little bit in this movie, and he gets revived for some information and then asked to be killed, but Hicks and Newt, I think, like, died instantly or something. So that's, like, already pretty much a downer at the start. Like, way to go, just having the likable characters just killed immediately. And then Ripley's, like, paranoid about, like, if an alien's on board and doesn't find anything, and then it turns out there is one, or specifically the face hugger, it ends up inside of a dog, which was kind of a weird scene. And poor dog, the dog found the face hugger originally first, but I don't think anyone noticed. So, like, they could have caught it at the beginning, I think, but the prisoners didn't know anything about xenomorphs. I feel bad for them, honestly, because it's like, if Ripley hadn't crashed there and it wasn't, like, her fault or anything, I think, they would have all been fine, yeah. But, yeah, it ends up causing mischief and killing people and stuff. So there's just, I think, like, one xenomorph this whole movie. And it kind of is, like, the first movie where it's, like, targeting people individually again and stuff. I guess this one isn't, that's probably why this one also isn't called, like, Aliens or something. It's just Alien 3, because we're back to just having, like, one alien. That's it. But the environment's pretty interesting, like, because it's a prison, it doesn't really look like a spaceship or anything this time around. Or like a military building. It's kind of in, like, a shitty condition and stuff. They don't have any weapons, and it's basically like Ripley kind of has to, she just wants the damn thing dead. She doesn't really seem to, like, care about the prisoners or anything, and she just wants to be able to leave at first, but then she finds out she's infected, and then, it kind of goes on from there. Let's see. With this one, I think what also kind of weakened it for me is I didn't really care about any of the characters. Like, the one prisoner we kind of do see the most of is the doctor that works there that Ripley is, like, friends / romantic with. I think it was that they, like, slept together or something. And he seems like one of the only, like, decent people there. Like, we even find out his backstory, and it actually isn't, like, too bad compared to everyone else. I mean, it did suck he lost his, like, medical license or whatever, because he, like, did get some people killed and stuff. So he's kind of forced to be there. But I mean, everyone else is, like, murderers and, like, the worst kind of, like, prisoners or whatever is mentioned, so it doesn't seem too bad. And then, kind of like with the second movie, it's like we learn his backstory, and then he's immediately killed by a xenomorph. I think, like, impaled the same way as Bishop too. And then what else? There's a prisoner that wears glasses that is, like, the leader of all of them, and he was, like, so insistent on himself and the other prisoners being, like, celibate and stuff, because Ripley, like, finds out she's in an all-male prison, and she's warned, like, yeah, don't go near the prisoners or anything, and the guy's just like, it's fine, we're all celibate, yeah, we haven't seen a woman in years, but, we've been doing good. He seemed pretty sane, and, like, he even saved Ripley at this part where she ends up getting assaulted by some of the other prisoners. And I don't like that scene, but I can see why it's necessary, because, like, that would probably be the reality of, like, she's in an all-male prison, they haven't seen a woman in years, which is also why I don't really feel bad for the prisoners when they're getting killed up, because that's the thing, it's like we don't really get to know any of them. There's only a couple that get some screen time. Like, there's one that is, like, who's, like, kind of crazy, who calls the xenomorph a dragon, and Ripley's trying to get information out of him in the infirmary and stuff. I was wondering why he called it a dragon. I mean, then again, if you'd never seen a xenomorph, I mean, how else would you probably describe it and stuff? And I noticed he was always eating it. That particular prisoner was, like, always eating in every scene he was in, so he didn't really have any lines, but it was kind of funny. But yeah, there's only, like, 3 I could think of off the top of my... No, there's this guy who's like the not the warden but like the warden's right hand man, and they refer to him by a number. I think it's like 85 or something, and he's always getting mad about that. He's like, don't call me 85. And we find out the reason why is because the prisoners looked at his file when he first arrived, and that was like the number for his IQ or something. But he's not like dumb or anything, and he actually stays alive. I think he's like one of the only people who actually like stays alive throughout the entire movie. But it is also because he is the one who calls in like the Weyland-Yutani people at the end. But yeah, there's not really that many prisoners that I remember. There's like a lot of them. Most of them don't get like lines or anything, and they get picked up by the xenomorphs, and like we don't really know about them. And the fact that like, I mean, with the other movies, it's usually like it's a space crew or scientists or Marines or whatever, and or so it's like normal people or, you know, soldiers or something. But in this one, it's like if they're all super dangerous prisoners, I'm not saying they like deserve to get killed off by the xenomorphs or anything, but it's like hard to feel kind of bad for them, you know. Okay, that's the end of my notes, but I remember more things. I feel like I was remembering things in this movie as I was watching Aliens because I originally had watched them back to back. The design of the prison's okay. I mean, it's a very like spacious area and stuff, so it doesn't have that like claustrophobic feel I like if someone's like stuck in a room with an alien and stuff. I think this was the one that had some of the weird effects. Like I can't remember if it was from 3 or 4, and I know I keep mentioning it, but it was just bothering me. There's a scene in one of those where like there's a xenomorph and it's crawling around on the ceiling, and the CGI of it is like so bad. But I know this is a movie that's like from the early 90s or something. But some stuff with the xenomorph is pretty cool. Like it, because there's only one, it does feel kind of threatening. Like there's this part that's pretty iconic where Ripley's in a hospital. It's right after the doctor guy gets killed, and the xenomorph gets right in Ripley's face. It's such an iconic shot that I think they tried doing it again for Romulus, where it does feel threatening. Like, is it gonna get her? And there's plot reasons why it doesn't. Or I think my favorite part with the xenomorph actually is when Ripley and the prisoners are trying to catch it at the end, and we actually get to see the xenomorph's like POV, where it's running around in this like kind of looping tunnel trying to chase them and stuff. And that was really cool. That was like kind of fun, actually. I think that made it a better chase sequence and it kind of reminded me of watching Predator, where we do get to see the Predator's POV in the original of like before it's actually introduced. Kind of gave a similar vibe, so that was kind of cool. What else? I thought it was interesting, like, because the prison didn't have any weapons, they couldn't do the usual thing of like shooting down, you know, you're thinking like, okay, they can't shoot the xenomorph, they did have access to fire, but it ends up getting ruined early on with like dynamite or something, and they don't have like an airlock to blast it out. Like, what are they gonna do? And they end up having to get pretty creative with trying to take it down, which is neat. Like, they have a bunch of like magma or something, and they end up using that, and they end up trying to set this whole elaborate trap to kill the xenomorph. And I think it does end up getting soaked in the lava, but I mean, Ripley does end up being like impregnated by one, and that's like the big thing with this movie too, and how she ends up dying and stuff, as she finds out like halfway through, and it's even shown, she sees it on like this x-ray thing or something, and she's like, oh shit. And then from that point it kind of sucks, because like you have a feeling she'll probably die. I mean, she could have been taken back and like saved or something, but like the company would have gotten the xenomorph, and she was pregnant with like a queen specifically, so it would have screwed everyone over. So she tries to take like the sacrifice from like that point on for the rest of the movie of like, okay, I need to die so this thing dies, and refuses to get rescued. Like, even like one of the coolest parts of the movie is when the Weyland-Yutani company shows up and they're like, hey, we're here to save you, Ripley, we're gonna get this thing out of you, you just gotta come with us. And then she'd rather die than let the company get their hands on a xenomorph. And then we have the shot kind of like in Terminator 2 where she like falls into the lava, and the baby xenomorph is like trying to come out of her stomach, and she grabs it and she keeps it there and then dies in the lava, which I'm like, man, that's like a sad way for her to go, but it is basically like a big fuck you to the company. And I'm like, that's so in character at this point. And she seems so just like tired and done with just everything going on with this movie. Like, she doesn't seem scared of the xenomorphs at all. She's just kind of like, want these bastards dead kind of vibe, you know? And meanwhile, the prisoners, it's kind of funny with the prisoners, a bit of like, these are supposed to be some of the like most scariest people, but like they're so frightened by getting picked off by the xenomorphs. And that's kind of like a cool theme to me with Alien, where even when we have like really scary prisoners or like Marines or whatever, people who like know how to fight and stuff, like anyone gets freaked out by these. And no matter like how cocky or like smart you are or whatever, you know, everyone gets screwed over. And it's always the person who's like actually kind of smart and doesn't want to be there and can stay calm that usually survives. So that's always pretty cool. Or in this case of this movie, I think no one survived except for 86 because he goes with the company. And what was also interesting with that is they have a guy that looks like Bishop that shows up, and to the point where Ripley thinks that's Bishop, but it's actually his creator, which that's interesting because like I'm thinking like, is he the guy that designs all of the synthetics or just that specific line? I mean, he literally made like Bishop, for example, in his own image and everything. So are there like other people that are also making the other models like based on real people? Or I don't know, it's just interesting to think about. But it was kind of a dick move from the company of like, oh yeah, we brought someone that should look familiar even though it's not your friend, to kind of coax you to come with us and stuff, and then they end up leaving and they don't get the xenomorph. And then with 4, it's revealed like they did somehow get Ripley's DNA. I assumed it was because since she literally burned herself to death with that lava, that it was probably from the doctor giving her examinations at the beginning of the movie, because she gets like a couple of them and stuff. But I mean, it's not like she would have known and stuff. So it is sad that in a sense it is kind of all in vain, where they make all these, like in the next movie, like all these Ripley clones, and they do end up with the queen in the end. Like, her sacrifice was sort of in vain. But I mean, it does end up being like 200 years later and stuff, you know. But it does always suck watching the protagonist die, especially since it's someone we've had for like 3 movies now. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, most of this movie actually is just them trying to fight the xenomorph and stuff and stay alive. It's like a different vibe from Aliens, where it's like we got a lot of moments, as I was mentioning, to like get to know the characters. Here I feel like we didn't really get to know anyone, and I don't really care about like any of the characters in this movie except for Ripley, if I'm honest. So like, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it is my least favorite of the Alien movies. Even it's funny because like Prometheus doesn't have any xenomorphs, which is kind of a bummer, but like I get it. And then this one does, and then this is the one that has like, you know, the usual stuff of like the xenomorphs are trying to track people and like the horror of it. But like, I like Prometheus more because at least it was like kind of interesting and was trying to take a different path. And then with this one, it's just like, it had the horror, I just didn't care. I don't know. So yeah, that's like my thoughts on Alien 3. I just don't really have much to say about it. So then the next one is Resurrection. I've only seen that one once, and that was when I was watching it a couple weeks ago. But I remember sort of liking it. I just didn't remember what like my full opinion on was it. And I thought I liked it enough where I'm like, okay, I want to do a proper review and actually rewatch the movie and have notes and stuff. So I'll be doing that hopefully soon. I thought about doing that tonight, but then my dad was mentioning to me that the Minecraft movie's finally on streaming. Not like I desperately wanted to watch the Minecraft movie, but I was kind of waiting to potentially watch it till it wasn't in theaters and I didn't have to go sit with like rude, crazy, loud people or anything. And I feel like that would be, at least, even if I end up hating that movie, maybe it would be fun to do a review of. And I gotta like finish Deltarune too. I'm not close to doing that yet. Alright, but yeah, that's my thoughts on Aliens and Alien 3. Aliens is cool. I could watch that again easily. Alien 3, I don't want to watch it again. I'm fine with rewatching like literally any of the other ones, but not that one. Okay, so next will be the review for Resurrection. And then after that, depending on when I get time for things and when it comes out, probably Alien Earth. And then hopefully the Predator movies. I keep wanting to say Prometheus, but no, they both start with the letter P. Predator. I want to get into Predator. Yeah, because the first one was pretty good, so I need to just see the rest at this point. And you know, the series are both like so connected, and I was gonna watch Alien versus Predator anyway. You know that. Yeah. All right. Bye bye.